This week, passions run high as we debate one of the toughest issues to balance in any marriage or relationship. And later, Becca thinks Alex is great, but is he second date material? We have our opinions, but you'll have to decide for yourself. Welcome to the talking phase. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Talking Phase podcast. My name is Tom, and as always, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Pam.
Hey, Tom. And as always, I'm very excited to be here today. And I'm super excited for today's show, probably even more than the past few shows, because this particular subject is one that I've been doing a lot of reflecting on. And I'm really just looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are going to be on it as well.
Okay. I think that's why we're here, right? We're gonna share thoughts. But before we get to it, as always, we have our amazing producer, Brian. He's we also known as the voice of God. He's going to jump in with his thoughts on the discussion today. You with us, Brian?
You say jump, I say on who.
Oh, spicy.
Wow. So Brian apparently is he believes in the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else.
Whatever works, whatever floats your boat.
Okay. Well, hey,
you,
yes, I know. I have a story to tell you after the show. Okay. Well, hey guys, before we get started, I have some really fun facts that I want to share with both of you guys. I hope that's all right.
What are they?
Do either one of you guys know much about Grenada?
Grenada.
That's that little thing you throw at somebody in a war, right?
Yeah, no.
Is it a place? Person, place, or thing?
It is a place. It is a little country in the Caribbean. It's just off the northern coast of Venezuela. Population of about 125,000 people.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And by the way, it's also the subject of a 1986 movie, I believe, with Clint Eastwood. He played the part of a soldier that was part of the invasion of Grenada in 1983. So anyway, the reason that I think, well, first off, English is its official language and nutmeg is their primary export.
I feel like I've learned so much already today.
Yeah, it is such an amazing place. The architecture is absolutely stunning. Like right there.
Oh, vacation.
Exactly. Look at the beaches, though. The beaches are beautiful. I don't know how long it takes to get there, but the beaches look beautiful. But you know what I really like about Grenada?
I honestly have no idea.
Okay. After just 3 episodes of the Talking Phase podcast, in the relationships category on Apple Podcasts, our show is number 80 in the US.
Wow.
I know. That's
pretty
exciting.
You didn't tell me that before this.
Yes, we're number 59 in both Canada and Denmark. But the reason Grenada is so important, we are number 1 in the relationships category in the entire country of Grenada.
Woo! We need to go on vacation to Grenada for sure.
Yeah, we'll call it a tax write-off too, right?
Yes, I think.
But by the way, since we're number 1, there we go. I love Grenada.
Cute. God.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. But we are, like I said, we're number 1 in the relationships category, and we're number 2 overall in the country. So anyway, we also hit a really cool milestone this week. We just a couple of days ago, we hit 200,000 followers on TikTok.
Woo, woo.
So if you're not following us on TikTok, wow, you're missing out.
With you? Yeah.
We're having a lot of fun over there. And you know, we often talk about some of the same things there, just in shorter form, of course. Anyway, so before we get to the show, just real quick, everybody, again, if you like what you're hearing, make sure you rate and review us on whatever platform you're using. If you're not following us on whatever platform you're using, now would be a good time to hit follow. Also, go over to TikTok. We're at Talking Phase Podcast on TikTok. We're also on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. That's new.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is new. Anyway, so that's our online lives, Pam.
At least as far as social media goes.
Yes, exactly.
And we're going to Grenada.
Now, since we're doing so well online, and we've just talked about that, what's going on in your real life?
Oh, out here in reality. Well, it's been a pretty good week this week. One of my closest girlfriends, Michelle, turned double nickels, which is a new term. I had not heard double nickels before, and I am past double nickels now. But she turned 55, and about 20 of us went to downtown Raleigh, and we did a pub crawl, and it was smoking hot here in Raleigh. It was in the 90s, and the entire pub crawl was outside. And
Ugh.
yeah, it was hot, but it was fire. It was so much fun celebrating her. And it's always fun for me when my friends that are younger than me at least get up to their double nickel birthday. I don't get to have that again now. So yeah, I've really enjoyed watching my friends grow older, but somehow I managed to always stay ahead of them.
Usually we call a double nickels a Nichols family reunion in where I'm from, but
Oh,
that
that's
must be
right.
different verbiage where you guys are from.
It's a double entendre for sure.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, so for two things. Number one, I always find it fascinating that women call their friends girlfriends. I mean, if I called Brian,
It was
my
always
boyfriend-
confusing as a kid. Always
Yeah.
confusing.
It's fine with me if you guys want to call
I
each other
understand, but if I
boyfriend.
called Brian my boyfriend, people would make assumptions. But you said girlfriend. I didn't assume you were gay.
Thank you.
That's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It's not something that I've ever really thought of before, but you're absolutely right that it is socially acceptable for only one of our sexes.
Yeah.
We'll change that. We'll make it our thing to
Yeah.
change that for you.
Yeah, that's
But,
okay. I'm not jealous. It's just interesting.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, we really enjoyed the party, and I spent the rest of the time this week. My daughter and I are really, really trying to score some Taylor Swift tickets when she comes back to the U.S. And we saw her in April in Atlanta. So we've justified that it's been a full year since we
Of
saw her.
course.
And she's put out a new album, so it's new music in the concert. And so we are searching far and wide to decide where we're going to go see her next if we can afford tickets.
So she's not going to go to Raleigh?
Oh yeah, she skipped North Carolina. She never even came to Washington or North Carolina or South Carolina. So we had to fly to Atlanta the first time. But now at least when she comes back, she'll be in Miami. And so we're kind of thinking, maybe we get some tickets in Miami. I grew up in Miami, and take my daughter, who will be 30 this summer, on a little tour of where I grew up and end up in Key West. So combine Taylor Swift and Key West, and what do you got?
Key Swift.
A big party.
A big party. Oh, I get it.
Big party. And so that's pretty much been my week, and it's been a really, really good week. How about you? How has your week been going so far?
Oh, well, I find myself with some free time because, as you know, I'm on a dating pause.
I can't believe it.
So, we've talked about how long it takes to get a date, and the hours that you spend swiping and liking and chatting and all that. And so when you're not doing that, you find yourself with some extra time. But I do keep pretty busy at my day job. Brian and I actually work together, and my team and we have about 11 separate events planned across the country between now and the end of July. So there's going to be a lot of travel and a lot of details that need to be worked out over the next couple of months.
And it doesn't even sound like it's going to be fun travel, or is it?
No.
That work travel.
Yeah.
So we need to go to Granada.
Yes. And by the way, anybody who ever thinks that work travel is luxurious or fun, it means you've never done it.
All right. Well, while we're talking about your job, I honestly don't know what you do. Like, what is your job?
Well, it's probably boring for most, so I'll really make it short. When you call a customer service number, and they say press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, or 1 for sales, 2 for service, or whatever.
Very familiar.
Yeah. My company, we sell that technology, but instead of it being a computer that sits in the back room, ours is up in the cloud. So it's cloud-based technology. It's contact center as a service. So we press 1 for this, 2 for that. We route the calls to the agents wherever they may be. It's a $30 billion industry. I wish that we got a bigger chunk of the 30 billion. But yeah, that's what we do. Brian and I work together at our day job, and then we do this podcast and another podcast together.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
34 years.
Oh, well, you're probably pretty good at it.
They haven't fired me yet.
Yes, he
Okay,
is.
well.
The answer is yes. I will jump in. Tom is amazing at his job. Yes.
I see he didn't want to toot his own horn, so God had to do it.
Oh, do I say that out loud? I'll toot Tom's horn.
Wow, you guys are boyfriends.
We are boyfriends.
Wow. This show just took an entirely new direction.
Holy crap. Brian, you just outed us, buddy.
And welcome to the talking
Wow.
phase.
And people always ask why we're not dating, and now they know.
Exactly.
Wow, the secret is out. Cat's
I
out of
don't
the bag.
swing that way. Well,
Swing.
well, hey, I thought that telling people about my business was going to put everyone to sleep, but Brian just woke everybody up. So
Yes.
way to go, Brian.
Glad to have him on board.
Do what I
but my-
can. Doing my
Or at
part.
least you're glad to have him on board. Okay. We should move on.
That is fantastic. I love it. But yeah, I geek out on new technology. So yeah, I love my job. Anyway, so I'll tell you what, we have a couple of things to talk about today. I think we have an email we want to get to a little bit later, but we have a topic that we really want to talk about today. And I know you've put a lot of thought into this. Do you want to tell us what we're going to be talking about?
Well, yeah. So a few weeks ago, you and I did a live on TikTok. I don't know if you remember that. But
gonna have to narrow
during
it
that
down.
live, you read your list of what I call deal breakers
Uh-huh.
and let everybody who was in our live in on what makes Tom tick when it comes to relationships, and absolutely what does not make Tom tick when it comes to relationships. And we got into a little bit of a debate on how we felt about that. And so I, of course, immediately made a TikTok, and I asked people in this TikTok if their adult kids, that could be 18 or over, or kids not in the house, are still their top priority when they're entering into a new relationship with somebody. And the majority of the people said yes.
And I think we need to back up just a minute if we can.
Okay.
I think it's really important for people to understand that I didn't ever say my list does not contain the words, I must be more important than her kids.
Yes, that is, and I did get that when we did the live.
Yeah,
But
I said my list says for the woman that I hopefully someday end up with, she doesn't need, and I put quotes around the word need, she doesn't need her children. And you turned that to
prioritize.
your kids. My kids are more important, and therefore you basically conflated it to say Tom wants to be more important than the kids.
Okay, but
Now,
it's
having said that, I do think that.
Well, I know you do think that, and so that's why I was going to say it's a slippery slope, because we did arrive at that destination, which was when called out on it on your list, that yes, that when you're in a relationship with a woman, whoever that woman is, however long it takes to get there, that you will be her top priority.
No.
Okay. No, still no.
Nope. We're going to, this is one of the things, and we'll get there. But one of the things that we've had this conversation, as you can tell, everybody listening, we've had this conversation a half a dozen times, and every single time Pam uses the word important and priority as the same thing. And they are different words with different meanings.
Well,
So,
I know that important and top priority are not the same two things.
Well, then don't use them synonymously.
But you did say that you want to be the priority for that person.
I said I'm most important.
Well, but we've been using the word prioritize every time we've discussed it, and I understand the difference. Anyway, at the end of the day, I was saying that I felt that my kids have always been the most important thing in my lives, and therefore they have been my top priority. And am I correct in saying that you do not agree with that statement, that you feel like in a relationship, your partner is your top priority or the most important thing in your life?
So if those are two separate questions, I will answer them separately. My partner will be the most important person in my life, period, full stop.
Okay.
And if I'm not the most important person in her life, then I won't be her partner, full stop.
Okay. And that was my takeaway. from the
Okay.
list.
But priorities can sometimes take over things that are important. And that's the conversation you and I keep having, that just because something is important doesn't mean that something else can't be more urgent or more prioritized over it. So yeah, I think that kids or anything, kids, neighbors, parents, friends, all of those people take a second place in the importance ranking from my partner.
So in everyday life, your partner is the
Mhm.
most important person in your life. And then do your kids come second? And your
Mhm.
parent, well, if your parents are alive, they come third. Your job comes fourth. It really doesn't matter the rating as long as at the very top is your partner.
Yep.
And my feeling wasn't about whether or not your partner should be the most important person in your life, but why can't your partner and your children all have equal, and I'm going to stick with the word priority because I feel like that's the word that we've been using in prioritizing things. So I'll stick with priority and you can stick with most important, because to me, they feel like semantics. It feels like we're talking about the same thing and using different words
See, and that's
because,
where I disagree entirely. That that's like saying apples and oranges are both fruit, therefore we should use them synonymously. That
okay,
that it,
apples and oranges are both fruit, and I don't think that they're the same fruit. But I am a big believer in the fact that your partner and your children, whether they're young or adults, and your parents, especially if they're aging, can all be important. And I know that you're really sticking with most important, but I look back on my own childhood. And when I look back on my childhood, I remember pretty clearly that I never felt like I was the most important person in my parents' life. And at the time, I think it hurt me. And growing up, I think that I always wanted to be more important. I always wanted to be more of a priority than I was. But when I look back on their relationship, I do understand that them making each other top priority is why they had such a good marriage for 51 years. But was it at my expense or my sister's expense? And I think that I brought that with me into adulthood and made the decision that I would make sure that my kids always felt like they were my top priority, like they were the most important thing to me. Not because I wanted to make a man feel unimportant, because I certainly would never want that, but I never wanted my kids to doubt their place in my world. And probably some of that is my baggage.
yeah, and that's okay. I mean, we all have baggage, and a counterpoint to that, my parents had 6 kids. We grew up Mormon, and so 6 kids, and we all knew. I mean, I could poll each one of my siblings right now, and there would be 0% chance that they would disagree with this. We all knew every day of our lives that my parents adored each other and they were each other's top important and priority no matter what. And we never felt slighted because they were always there for us when we needed them. When a priority needed to happen, that's Charlie.
Sorry. Sorry. There
um,
are some things I can't fix.
no, it's fine. We're all real here at the Talking Phase
All
podcast.
right.
But the bottom line is and if you think about 6 kids, if they did say we're going to make sure our kids are always our top priority, let's say it was the other way around, and they said kids are number one instead of us,
Right.
which of the 6 kids? Because there were many times that we had conflicting activities or appointments or projects or whatever, and they had to choose between one kid versus another. So now does that other kid that wasn't, they couldn't make it to my baseball game because they had to go to my other brother's scout thing. So now do I feel slighted because my other brother is more important than me?
Well, that's a situation that I don't think I ever took that into account, mainly because it was just my sister and I. So I can understand why that would be more complicated for your parents. But obviously it wasn't that complicated for your parents because you were always clear on the fact that they were each other's priority and they were also most important to each other. So I still don't know how they ever handled 6 kids because that's a lot.
I don't either.
I don't know. Like, I guess one of them didn't get to go to their baseball game because there wasn't enough car drivers.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
somebody was taking priority in that. But at the end of the day, I think that the subject matter has always just really hit home for me because of my own experiences. But also, when you and I started talking about this and I really kind of made you get into it pretty deeply, especially after the video, because I felt like, hey, look, most people are saying their kids are their top priority.
Yep.
And I wanted to basically go nanny, nanny, boo, boo, look, I've won this. But in our discussions, in your examples, I clearly understood where you were coming from on the subject. And unfortunately, I had to look back on my marriage and my divorce and really take stock. And I actually talked to my family members about this. I took stock in the fact that had I made my ex feel like he was the most important thing in the world to me, we would probably still be married. And I'm glad we're not still married.
Right.
But I definitely have taken all of the things that you have said into account. And I have seen it through your eyes and through that perspective. But something in the back of my head still says your kids are the most important thing. I don't know whether it's just in there so deep.
Well, and you know what? And I am not faulting you. And I know that there are probably a whole bunch of people out there, and I hate to be sexist about this, but mostly women.
Mom.
And that seems to be, the mom. And I think it's an instinctive behavior for the mom to feel that way. But I will tell you, I've seen a lot of dating profiles over my few years on the circuit, and I will tell you if women talk about, you see a guy with a dead fish or a dead animal or in a gym pic, and I'm going to immediately swipe left. Well, you know what? I swipe left on women who have fish too, right? And believe it or not, there are a bunch of them there. But I will also, if I see somebody's profile and it says, my kids are my top priority and they always will be, instant swipe left. Now, someone right now, I guarantee you, someone is out there going, this guy's a fucking narcissist. He wants these women to forget their kids. That is not what I said. Please don't conflate what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, why would anyone, male or female, voluntarily get into a relationship knowing that the best they can ever hope for is second place?
I really disagree with that.
Well, then tell me where I'm wrong.
Because why can't you be tied for first place? Why can't more than one person be at the very top of that pyramid?
Why are you not a polygamist?
What?
Why are you not a polygamist then?
Well,
why don't you have multiple long-term partners, Pam?
Dude, I can't even get one. How am I going to get many? Like, come on. I mean,
there's a reason that we at least try to have monogamous relationships, because we want that one special person. And if that one special person has to share their special place with other people, it's no longer a special place.
I guess for me, the definition of priority is one thing that is regarded as more important than another. And I would have a hard time explaining to my kids who don't care one bit whether they're my priority or not right now in this moment, because they're not having, anything happen in their lives today that they're saying, hey, I need you to not deal with him. I need you to be there for me. They're not asking me to put them over somebody else, but should they need me in a situation and I'm in a relationship with somebody, I would hope that that person would not only understand, but would do the same thing if their kids needed them, that they would then make that person the priority or most important, whichever word you prefer.
Well, and that makes perfect sense to me, and I agree. For example, this Friday, I am getting on an airplane to fly, and this is a little announcement for everyone. I am flying to Raleigh to meet Pam. We'll probably do a live or two or make a couple of TikToks together. And that's an important trip for me. Well, if Friday morning I got a call from one of my kids that said, I need you, Dad, because of, whatever, an accident or they're hurt or something. Sorry, Pam. I don't care how important this trip is. That has now become a bigger priority. And that's the big difference to me. Because I can always reschedule that trip, but I can't always, but my kid needs me right now. And that to me, that's an urgent need rather than just something that's important. So I have a question for you about that.
Okay.
So
you're coming to Raleigh?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. That's as big a surprise as Brian and me coming out, right?
Yeah. At least they know you're not coming for anything serious.
That's right.
He's taking everybody.
That's right. Brian's my boyfriend. All right. So one of the things that I ask of you is this: if it's clear that you think or feel, whether you've articulated this verbally or mentally yet, in your mind and a lot of our listeners' minds, based on the comments that I've seen on that video, to be a good parent, your kids have to be your top priority and the most important. And therefore, if your kids are not your top priority or the most important, then you're not a good parent. And so my question to you and to anyone else out there, did you say your parent, you were or were not the top priority to your parents?
Was not. Well, I mean,
so were they bad parents?
No. And I'm sure I was the top priority if I was having a problem or a health issue or something like that. But
not
I
most
definitely
important.
knew I was not more important on a daily basis than they were to each other.
Okay. So are they bad parents?
No, they were great parents.
Okay. So so making your kids most important is not a requirement to be a good parent.
No, it's definitely not a requirement.
Okay.
But as I said earlier, it did leave me as I came into adulthood and started to think about having kids of my own. When I looked back on my childhood, even though I think they were great parents, I often felt unimportant. And so I wanted my kids to not feel that way. I wanted them to know that they were the most important things to me, and maybe to the detriment of my relationships. I'm definitely not too proud to admit that. And that if I could go back, maybe I would have altered some of my behaviors. Not all of them, but some of them.
So one of the things, and I don't know if we've had this conversation, but one of the things that makes me passionate about this is the fact that when so I got married at 24 years old. We waited 6 or 7 years or so to have kids, which, again, in Utah, that is insane. Usually you're pregnant within the first 2 hours. And, we waited 6 or 7 years. And for that 6 or 7 years, we had a pretty decent thing going. We were happy and fun and had friends and did all that stuff. The minute those kids were born, our twins were born, everything changed. And of course it's going to change, but it's not that that's came about wrong. It's not just that we stopped being able to go out with our friends, because, you have twins, you don't go anywhere. It's not that. It's that she literally ceased being my wife. She became nothing but a mother. And I immediately took second place, actually third place, because there were twins. And nothing I said meant anything. Nothing we did. I was a good dad. I got up every night. When she breastfed our twins, every time they got up in the middle of the night to feed, I was up with her. I changed diapers all night long with her for 9 months.
I wish I was married to you.
Too bad. Brian's taken.
I was alone.
Yeah. And so I I was there, and then she worked a business that took her away on the weekend, so I took care of the kids all the weekend. So it's not that I wasn't there. So it's not like, oh well, Anyway, the bottom line is, I became the lowest member of the household overnight, and I believe that had a lot to do with the fact that I'm divorced now.
And do you think that some of how you feel right now with your list is just baggage from that marriage and the way that she made you feel, because it was such an extreme? I mean, that's really extreme what she did to you versus, having plenty of time for your spouse, but also plenty of time for your children. She didn't give you any time.
Well, again, my list doesn't include anything about this, but yes, it does. Yeah, of course, it informs my current opinion of things. I mean, all we are is a collection of scars and beliefs that we've gathered over the years. I mean, that's what makes us who we are. So yeah, it definitely informs how I believe or how I
Because
feel right now.
Well, listen, ultimately, I think that prioritizing doesn't mean choosing one person over another all of the time. It involves just recognizing the different needs at different times and then striving to meet those needs in a way that supports the well-being of your partner and your family members. And I don't think that's impossible to do, while still making your spouse feel like they are a top priority and your kids know that they are also a top priority. I feel like that's doable. Now, I know it didn't happen for you in your previous marriage, and I know that I probably fell short in my previous marriage. But like you just said, we are a collection of our scars and our mistakes, and we have the ability to look back at those things and say, next time, granted, if I ever have a next time, I'm going to do better. I will not make those same mistakes again. And I will prioritize my partner while making my kids also feel like they are very important, most important. For me, it's everybody is most important. I'm not going to sacrifice the man that I love or the children that I brought into this world that I love or my dad. I want those people to know that when they need me, if it's important, if it's an emergency, I will be there for that person.
Well, believe it or not, I think we're probably saying the same things. We're
I
just
do
using
too.
different words.
I was going to pop in because honestly, it sounds like you guys are more or less saying the same thing, only we're just changing the words themselves. So to Tom's point, most important is specifically saying, yes, like you are the top, but that's not the same as a priority, meaning that the priority will change based on the context of the situation that's taking place. So to Pam's point, Pam, you're I think you're saying the same thing. It's just in terms of what will be the most important at any given time relative to whatever is happening in the world. But I think the one piece to really pay attention to is we only, and it sounds a little cliche, but we only have so much love to give, right? Like if you're trying to give a 100% of your love to what you are identifying as the most important people, you start to dilute that love because you can't give it 100% the way you want to. Now, granted, that's my personal bias. I just feel I would be burnt out trying to do that. So back to Tom's point, I do see why you absolutely want to prioritize the most important person. And then with that, be able to, again, move the priorities around based on that context. But hey, who am I but the voice of God?
He has spoken.
He has spoken. Well, hey, you know what, you guys? I think this has been a great discussion. My guess is Pam and I will have this conversation longer, and we will continue the conversation. Very interested in what you guys think. Please leave us comments and thoughts about it. But I think we probably ought to move on to something else. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think that we've done all we can do here.
Yeah. Agree to disagree, but kind of agree to agree at the same time.
Mostly agree and disagree on certain wording.
There you go. By the way, just so everybody's aware, if you've read the book, The 5 Love Languages, you understand what I'm talking about. My love language is words of affirmation or words of acknowledgement. And so words and their meaning are very important to me. And so when someone says a word, I take them at their word, and that's what I think they mean. And that's part of, you used the word semantics earlier, and these are semantics. I get it. But let's be clear what we actually mean. That's
And I think
kind
we're
of what,
both the same kind of parents. At the end of the day, I think that we are the same type of parents, and I think we both want the same type of a romantic relationship.
absolutely.
You
Yep.
with Brian. of
Yeah,
course.
me and Brian.
Well, that was a great discussion. So do you want to move on to something else? Should we go? Should we grab a letter?
I think we should get to that email. What do you think?
All right. Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
All right, well, let's do it.
All right. So
You've got mail.
thank you.
The button didn't work.
You've got mail.
Wow. Just
And now it works.
comedy of imperfections here today at the Talking Phase.
Sorry, my mind was on Tom. I just, you know.
I
Oh, he
To
pushes
be a
my
fly
buttons.
to
I
be a
sure
fly-
do.
A fly on the wall with these two men. Now that
We have
they've
fun.
come out. All right. So we have this letter. It came in and I got it. And so Tom, I don't even think I've read this to you yet. And I kind of liked it because it's something that I have dealt with on dates, especially dating app dates. And it says, Tom and Pam, I met this guy named Alex through a dating app, and we decided to grab coffee at a cute coffee cafe downtown. Right from the start, things were a little bit off. He spent the entire time talking about his ex-girlfriend
Ooh.
and then, it was right, and complaining about his job. I
Oh.
tried to steer the conversation to lighter topics, but he kept circling back to his ex. It was so awkward. He texted me after the date to say that he had a great time and wants to see me again.
Oh,
Yeah, nice of him. We have a lot of things in common, and I was attracted to him, but I'm just not sure about a second date since he seems to have a lot of drama. Should I go out with him again? Sincerely, Becca from North Carolina. So she lives right here in North Carolina.
hell no. That's my first answer.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, kudos to him. At least they met for coffee, so there's not a lot of time investment in this.
Low risk. Good for him. Good for
That's
them.
a good thing. I tell everybody that meets on a dating app that they should FaceTime before they meet, even before a coffee date. I feel like he probably wouldn't have made it 15 minutes through FaceTime without talking about his ex or how much he hated his job. So she could have saved herself some time there.
You know what I thought was interesting about that is that she said that he started out saying that he talked about his ex and his job, but then he circled back just to the ex.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big red flag for me. I mean, I don't, if I'm talking like, oh, I saw this play and it was really good. And the person I'm on a date with says, oh, I saw that with my ex and we really enjoyed it. I would probably write that off, but it sounds like he was doing a lot more talking about his ex than just like a casual conversation. I mean,
yeah. Oh, I know that, when I first got divorced, and I would be telling a story or an experience that I'd had, for 18 years, almost every experience I had included my ex-wife. And so I didn't say me and my ex-wife would do this. I'd say I would do this, or we did this, or whatever. And I was told a few times that I talk a lot about my ex, and I'm going, I'm talking about my life, and I try not to include her, but she was there.
right.
But now that it's been 4 or 5 years, now I've got different experiences that we can talk about that don't include her. But, when that first happens, so it sounds like he's, at least from my experience, it sounds like he's just recently out of the relationship.
Well, he's certainly not over her.
Right.
And even if he is over her, I mean, if you're not the kind of person who can have an adult conversation without constantly talking about things that you did with your ex or even things that you don't like. I mean, when I go on a first date, whether it's a dating app date or a regular date, my goal is to keep the conversation as light and airy and positive as I possibly can. I mean, even if it's a coffee date, it's an interview, right? I mean, isn't that what first dates basically are, is an interview?
Yeah. What's your favorite color?
We joke about that a lot, but no one has ever actually asked me my favorite color.
Me neither.
But we do
People
talk about
it.
music.
Yeah.
What's your favorite band? I mean, like us, we talk about TV and we talk about music and things like that. Those are like things that you want to have in common for the most part, because if you're going to be in a serious relationship with somebody, you want to not have to change everything you like.
Yeah. Do you ask them if their kids are more important? I'm just kidding.
I've added that to my list. I'm actually starting. I should start a list. Honestly, if I was you and I had a list like yours, then I would probably eliminate 99% of the dates that I don't have, because what's the point in dating? But like, honestly, I just feel like this is clearly a dating app. Because if you meet any other way than a dating app, you've already had your first conversation and then you go out. But dating apps, we didn't name this podcast Talking Phase for no reason. I just think that people are not getting enough information during the talking phase, and yet it lasts forever.
Yeah. Well, going back to what's her name, Becca and Alex. She said that she said that they had a lot in common.
Well, he must have talked about something. Well, they both had exes, probably.
Yeah, but what could it be? Yeah, other than that we're both divorced or whatever. I mean,
Maybe they both hate their jobs too.
yeah. Other than that, she didn't really talk about. I mean, what did they have in common?
He probably was hot.
Well, maybe she wasn't, though. You never know, right?
I don't know, but when somebody says when they're asking and they really want to go on a second date and the first date was super shitty, I generally think they're saying, wow, this guy was hot. He's got a good job. 6'5" in finance, blue eyes. Those who know. But yeah, he probably had a lot of physical qualities and she's trying to justify whether there's enough substance there to go out with him again. And I don't think there is. Like, if that to me is a shitty first date, I would be like, no. But
yeah, that sounds nightmarish to me.
But I'm glad she wrote in, because it gives us the opportunity to, delve a little bit into those dating app dates and, talk about what would we be okay with, and I wouldn't be okay with somebody talking about their ex, and
Well, I have one final question, I think, for you about this. So he texted her and said, "Hey, I'd like to see you again."
Yeah, he said he texted after the date and to say he had a great time and wants to see her again.
Why do we do that? Why do we text later? Why don't we just say, "Hey, Becca, I just had a great time. I'd like to see you again." Right? I mean, she's right there.
I know why. I think I know why.
Why?
I think I know why. I think it's because everybody is so scared of face-to-face rejection. So by letting the date end and then texting her, if she says no, she doesn't want to go out again, even if his feelings are hurt, at least she's not looking at him and hurting his feelings. And also, I have had men ask me for a second date on a first date. And the first couple of years of dating apps, when that happened, I almost always said, sure, I would love that, because I was so terrified about hurting somebody that I would say yes, face to face. And then I would send a text later and say, listen, I did some thinking about it and I just don't think that we're a really good match. And I'm sorry. And I hope you find your person. But it has also happened to me multiple times where I've gotten that text. So I just think that we fear face-to-face rejection. And that's why we do that.
I will tell you, I've told you before that while I'm no longer a practicing Mormon, I look back very fondly on my Mormon mission days when, I'm knocking doors with my name tag and everything. I never thought about it this way, but hey, talk about rejection. You're knocking on 200 doors a day and you're lucky to get in one. I was very, very familiar with face-to-face rejection. So it's water off a duck's back. I don't care.
So you might be the exception to the rule. You're that guy that if you go on a first date and you think it's great and you say, man, I would love to see you again. And she's like, this sucked. I don't want to do it again. Because basically that's what we're saying when we say it's not a good match, that you're like, all right, well.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd rather hear about it now, we in the sales process, when we're selling the technology that we sell, I want to learn early if I'm never going to win the deal.
And I get that. Well, I never made anybody wait more than an hour. So It's not like they probably were a little excited during that hour. But it's been the same. It works both ways. I have gone on first dates where clearly what I was talking about, or they didn't like the way I looked, or whatever the case may be. And the date has ended with a nice hug and, I hope to see you again, but nothing definitive. And then I've gotten the text that says, I just don't think we're a good match. So, I've gotten better at rejection, but no, I'm still not good at doing it face to face. That's only if it's a truly horrible first date.
Got it. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, here's the way I see it. I feel bad. My final answer, and what's your final answer? My final answer is, Becca, don't ever talk to him again. Just say, thanks, it was no fun, or it was fun, but not for me.
Right. You could just
what do
say
you think?
thanks, it was no fun. Yeah, I think she does not go out with him again. I think that I really do believe it was just his looks that was trying to get her to want to go on that second date. And I've been there too, but it's just a waste of time. He's not going to have a better personality on the second date.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. So basically, Becca, if you're looking for something other than a one-nighter, then go the other direction, I think. All right.
Alex will get better. Alex will get better.
Let him figure it out over time.
A little bit of distance.
Hope he figures the shit out. Poor Alex.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I think that's going to be it for us today. If you have a question for us or a letter or a question or whatever you want us to read on the air, slide into our DMs by sending us an email to talkingphase@gmail.com. In the meantime, while we're waiting for your letters or for your DMs, again, thanks for listening. Make sure you rate this podcast on whatever platform you're using right now to hear our voice, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Pandora or Spotify or iHeartRadio or whatever you're listening on right now. Just take a minute to hit that rating button. Give us 5 stars. Write a quick review if you would. Pam's awesome. Tom sucks. Whatever you want to write is fine with me.
You can ship Tom and Brian.
Yes, you can ship Tom and Brian, but also share this show with your friends and family. That would be very helpful and very much appreciated. Join us every week. A new episode drops every Friday morning. And with that, until next week, Tom and Pam signing off.
Have a great day, night, weekend.